Guys, I think the rat race is a mental implication, right, of believing or feeling like you're stuck, even though you're always doing the same thing. I think it starts mentally, initially first, and then it manifests to physical. And obviously, physical, it can show emotionally, it can show financially, and possible cases, spiritually. Like, if you're talking about, morality or even inner well-being. But I think it's always mental first, as in 99% of things in the world. But the rat race, that could also stem from like things that, and not even so much environmental factors, but like things that it's not your fault, like things that you don't cause. Like, no one's asked to be born here, right? So people always throw that in people's face, especially with close, confidential people, i.e. family, friends, people in their close confidence. But yeah, you're born with those struggles, those roadblocks, those impediments. You're born with not enough money to invest. You're born with genetical factors, as far as like health goes. But for the most part, the rat race is inclined to a financial status or lack of a financial presence or well-being in your environment, right? The rat race is exemplified in thousands of different ways, right? I think the main way that we I guess see day to day in America is not just necessarily having the need to work, right? Whether your household is one or two incomes at a full-time, in a full-time manner, full-time rate, but working multiple jobs or overly exhausting yourself week to week by working overtime, right? At a means to not get ahead, right? Not save to invest something, not save to pay off a debt, not save to purchase something for a trip. The overworking or the exhaustion of work has become nuclear to many people, most people in America, to where it supports them with just getting by. You just have to get by. I work 60, 70, 80 hours to simply pay my bills, or attempt to pay my bills, and an attempt to pay them on time. The household in America back in the 80s and 90s can survive off of a $35,000 or $40,000 income. Family of 4 or 5. At the end of the tunnel, being able to not only purchase but afford a home, afford a vacation or two every year, every other year, right? Afford somewhat decent food to keep them alive to retirement, pay off their house that they bought 30 plus or minus years prior. And so now they're in retirement, whether they have a 401k or not, they have SSI or a pension, which is a little bit more lucrative than SSI. Right? So that rat race connotation really, really developed not too long ago, where everything always feels like a grind, no matter what age you are, no matter what race, ethnic background, right? No matter where you are or where you're at in the States, East Coast, South, Midwest, right? The grind is always necessary. The hustle and bustle is always necessary. And then I sit back and I look at my own disposition. I look at the people I work with. I look at my friends, and then I look at my family, and I take note of everything. And I'm like, man, I'm like, this is what I'm going to have to look forward to in 5 years. This is what I'm going to have to look forward to in 10 years and 15 and 20. Will I even retire? I had a goal to early retire by 40 if I was to continue living in the States permanently, right? Retire by 40, between 40 and 45. If shit gets really turned up positively, right? It could maybe even be 39, right? But there is so many variables to being able to sustain that trajectory and increasing income outside of maintaining income, increasing investments, or even starting investments while still having the necessary, grit, schedule, cost of living around the upbringing of kids, right? Combating the different stuff day to day that you go through, wear and tear in vehicle, health, going to the doctor, dentist, cooking, or deciphering whether or not I should cook, deciphering whether or not I have time to cook or go grocery shopping at a decent spot that's not gonna eventually kill me. Like, you got all this stuff, right? You get just so much stuff. So I'm like, man, this rat race is unfortunately the staple of our national community. I've literally heard people tell me in passing by that, yeah, I work 6 to 7 days a week and I could barely get by. If I made what I made or what I was making, right, and I can work 6 to 7 hours a week because I'm getting overtime or something like that, and I was doing that for a while, for like years on years, like, then early retirement, if it didn't kill me, can be possible. But a lot of people, right, whether they don't have a high school diploma or they have a master's, sometimes even a doctorate, can't even sustain work. I would assume that a higher degree will keep the gap of employment down. I assume that if there's a gap in employment, there's a severance package with certain positions at certain educational levels. We could assume all that on a positive side. But I shouldn't be getting laid off of any job. If I'm doing the right stuff, it shouldn't be on me. And if I'm laid off, I should have enough savings from when I was working here, because my job understands my cost of living to a certain effect. They understand where I commute. They understand where I live, so they know roughly what I'm paying in rent, or roughly how much the house costs. Like, we could assume all that if companies really care. I shouldn't be getting laid off. And if I get laid off, I have enough money to keep me for 1 to 2 years. And when I say enough, I have my salary still for 1 to 2 years, because I know, and my job, who really cares about me and who wants to treat me as a family, knows that I got bills to still pay. I gotta go get some change. I forgot, I'm just rambling. Supposed to stop and get some change. So this rat race thing it's sick, man. And it's like, there gotta be another way. And I'm telling you guys, wage labor in America, wage labor with all the other variables that are killing us in the United States of America, is going to indefinitely keep a lot of people stuck. A lot of people. I had a lot of opportunities to increase income and start building equity with certain things, but it got, getting to more property and all that stuff. And, I'm thinking about stock portfolios and all that jazz, right? And I think if anybody can still do that with a consistency at minimum, because preparing for your future is vital, But there's so many outlier factors. And I'm not saying live in fear. But there gotta be plans, man. There gotta be plans on plans on plans. Like, I'm not gonna be sick every day of my life, at least mentally, just because I'm trying to, make $1 out of 15 cents. That is rat race mentality. Anything goes. If you think of rats, they live in the worst types of conditions, Before I go in, let me finish this off. They live in the worst type of conditions. Rats don't care if there's manure everywhere, It's really important that people start painting this picture in their lives, because we're synonymous to this stuff. Rats don't care about their environment necessarily. Rats spread diseases, right? The main thing with rats, right, is that as long as they have a sense or a whiff that there is food, that there's a source somewhere, they will kill themselves to get it. They will jumble up upon other rats to get it. They will spread the disease, plague themselves, and assert themselves with the assumption that they will get their next or their fix. That's why rats spread so much diseases, right? So if you think about that, think about next time you see a rat. Think about the darks and the creeps of where rats come in. You see their tail and stuff like that, right? That's how a lot of us, live our life in America. That's how a lot of us spend our time, is chasing something that we whiff. And any minute, something can come knocking us, right? Any minute, somebody can bring that extermination spray. We're tired of these rats, right? But the idea, the placebo, that if you just, stick your head on the ground for a little bit while, bust your ass and do all this, you're gonna get your next, you're gonna get your cheese, you're gonna get your carrot, right? You're gonna be able to buy your house, you're gonna be able to retire, right? You're gonna be able to fund, your lifestyle in a comfortable manner, right? Someone can come and exterminate that. Environmental factors are real. Knowing where to live is key. Knowing who's controlling your government, local and federally, is key. Knowing what options you have is key, right? And knowing other plans of exit, other plans to maneuver, is the foundation of really being out of the rat race. I don't believe I am part of the rat race, although I still have extremities that attach me to it. I'm trying to maneuver out that, and I hope you guys are too, honestly, because it's going to kill us, at least mentally first. And anything mental manifests physical. Don't be part of the rat race. At least mentally get your head around preparing a plan A if you don't have a plan at all. And go from plan A to plan Z and see what shit sticks. Because life is a game. Life is a joke. Life isn't fair, right? And we're just put on this chessboard to figure it out.